Everyone says switching from controller to keyboard and mouse will make you a better Fortnite player. So a few months ago, I finally decided to make the change and find out for myself. I honestly thought it would take a week or two to get comfortable, and yeah, that did not happen. It took me way longer. Everything felt weird, my movement was terrible, my edits were very slow, and I lost a lot of fights I could have won, if I didn't suck. I don't have many clips from when I first started, but trust me, they weren't gonna be good anyway. After a few months of practicing though, I finally wanted to answer one question. Was switching actually worth it? Let's find out. The main reason I decided to switch from controllers to keyboard and mouse wasn't because I hit a controller or anything. I played on controller for a majority of the years, as I mentioned earlier, and I was pretty comfortable with it. I knew my settings, I knew my buttons, I knew what I was doing overall. But after a while, I started wondering, could I really improve on keyboard and mouse? I kept seeing people say that keyboard, gives you more control, better movement, you can do more on keyboard and mouse. So I wanted to see. I knew switching wasn't just going to, magically make me better. I knew I was probably going to struggle, be definitely worse than I was. But I wanted to challenge myself, see what I could do, and just see if I could play completely different. So I decided to put controller down, actually commit the keyboard, and I honestly didn't even realize how hard it was going to be until I actually, got on keyboard. The first few days of switching to keyboard and mouse were honestly a lot harder than I thought they were going to be. I knew it was going to feel different, but I didn't realize how weird everything would feel at first. The biggest thing I struggled with was just getting used to the controls. On controller, everything was just automatic. I didn't really have to think about where my buttons were because I had been playing that way for so long. But when I switched to keyboard, I had to think about everything. Even simple things like moving around, building, and editing just felt completely different. There were so many times where I just knew exactly what I wanted to do, but I just couldn't do it fast enough. I would mess up edits, press the wrong keys, and lose fights that I probably would have won if I was on controller. Playing against my friends was probably the biggest wake-up call because I could really tell how much I had improved. I remember thinking, am I actually gonna get better at this, or did I just make Fortnite way harder for myself? But I didn't want to switch back right away. I knew that if I kept playing, eventually I would start feeling more natural. So I just kept practicing, kept playing, and tried to improve a little bit every day. I think the hardest part about switching to keyboard was just getting comfortable enough to not think about every little thing I was doing. When you're in controller for years, you don't really think about your buttons anymore, you just react. When I switched to keyboard, I had to actually think about it. The hardest thing for me was probably building the muscle memory back up. I knew what I wanted to do in fights, but sometimes I just couldn't do it fast enough. Even now, there's still things I'm working on, especially with movement and making sure I'm not wasting time when I'm fighting. I think the biggest thing I've learned so far from switching is that getting better isn't just about playing more, it's about being patient and letting yourself improve over time. Because at the start, I compared myself to how I played on controller, and that honestly made it way more frustrating. Once I stopped expecting myself to instantly be as good as I was before, it became a lot easier to actually enjoy learning keyboard. After a while though, things slowly started to feel more normal. It wasn't like one day I just got on and suddenly became way better. It was more like I started noticing little things getting easier. I started moving around without thinking about my keys as much. My edits felt smoother, and I wasn't panicking much in fights. The biggest difference was that I wasn't spending the whole time thinking about the button I needed to press. I could actually focus more on the game itself. I remember when I first switched, I would lose fights and just feel like I was fighting my own controllers more than the actual player. But eventually that started to change. I started winning fights that I probably would have lost when I first, and that's when I realized I was actually improving. I still had a lot to work on, and I definitely wasn't where I wanted to be yet, and I'm still not, honestly, but seeing those small improvements made me want to keep playing. Because once it actually started clicking, I could see why so many people make the switch. So after spending all that time on keyboard and mouse, was switching from controller actually worth it? Honestly, yeah, I think it was. Looking back, I don't regret making the switch at all. It definitely wasn't easy, and there were a lot of moments where I questioned if I should have just stayed on controller. But the more I played, the more I realized that switching was helping me improve in ways I wanted to. I feel like I have way more control over what I want to do, and I'm still improving every time I play. I think the biggest reason I'm glad I switched is because it pushed me out of my comfort zone. If I never made that switch, I probably would have just stayed comfortable and never found out how much better I could have gotten. I'm not saying keyboard instantly makes you a better player, because it definitely doesn't. You still have to put in the time and actually learn it. But for me personally, switching to keyboard was one of the best decisions I've ever made in Fortnite. I still have a lot to improve on, but compared to where I started, I feel like I've come a long way. Looking back now, I'm really glad I decided to make the switch. It definitely wasn't as easy as I thought it was going to be. There were definitely a lot of frustrating moments, and there were times where I wondered if I had made the right decision. But if I would have gone back to controller after the first week, I never would have given myself the chance to actually improve. I'm still learning, and I'm definitely not the best keyboard player out there. I've still got a long way to go. But when I look at where I started, you know, compared to where I am now, it's a huge difference. I think switching to keyboard has honestly made Fortnite more fun for me, because every time I play, I feel like I'm getting a little bit better. If you're thinking about switching from controller to keyboard, just know it's probably going to be harder than you expect. You're going to mess up, lose fights, and get frustrated. That's just part of learning something new. But if you stick with it and keep practicing, I really do think it's worth it. If you enjoyed the video, let me know what you thought down in the comments. And if you switch from controller to keyboard, or if you're thinking about it, I'd love to hear how it's going for you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.